Okay, Rob, can you tell us about your collection and what it is exactly?
Yeah, so I collect many things, but mostly 78s. I would say I collect earlier records, so not necessarily like really collectible early records, because some of them are extremely collectible, but stuff that no one else would think twice about. So I have a real interest in the obscure things like brass band quartets and bell solos, strange things like that like no one else would record them these days. No one would go near them, but they're from 1905 and 1904 and whatever. Single-sided records usually have loads and loads of those. I also collect jazz and swing and dance band records. I just like 78. I like hearing stuff that I've not heard before, and especially the obscurity of early records is really interesting to me. Like, these things haven't been heard for 120 years in some cases. There's not been any other issue of them other than on that 78. And the other thing as well that I get quite sort of passionate about is you never know when something is literally the only known copy of a record. I'm convinced I must have hundreds of only known copies, but nobody really cares, so you'll never know. It's not like jazz and blues where there's a real collector base for them. They've been documented, like how many copies exist of this or that record. You don't get that with early records. So I find that quite interesting, just the possibility that this could be the only copy. I find preservation of recordings really, I think it's very important. It's part of our cultural history. It's part of the world's cultural history. When the recording industry first started, they were recording all sorts of stuff. They weren't just recording famous opera singers that people collect or ragtime that people collect. They were recording all kinds of things that just should be preserved and isn't. And I feel quite strongly about this, especially in this country. America's doing a great job of preserving their stuff. A really good job of it, like the Library of Congress are on it. We've got nothing like that. So yeah, just obscure stuff, jazz records, dance band records. Lately I've been kind of thinning out the obscure stuff and making a little bit of a headway into my own collection of like jazz and dance band records. But I've probably 90,000 records, so it's not like a big chunk has suddenly disappeared, you know.
How did you start collecting?
I started really with my granddad's records. He was sort of he was a rock and roll fan in the 50s, and so in my family we had quite a lot of 78s of Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, things like that, that, you know, are quite sought after these days. And I thought they were brilliant. I loved 78s. I used to listen to the run out grooves of records because I just liked the sound of them. I liked the hiss and the crackle. And then I discovered in his collection, weirdly, it was a real outlier, this record by Jelly Roll Morton's Red Hot Peppers called Dr. Jazz. Amazing record. It's quite a common one on HMV. They reissued it in the 40s, I think. And I heard that and I just went, wow, that's amazing. I think I must have been 6, 7. And it just all went from there, really. I started to listen to some of that stuff. A few years later, I was tuning through my radio and there was a guy on there playing Duke Ellington records, early Duke Ellington records. I just thought, yeah, this is that stuff I heard years ago. This is brilliant. I like this. So then I started picking up all these gramophone records, as they're called over here, just wherever they were. Auction houses quite often had them. I'd pick them up anywhere. I used to kind of go and ask people if they had any, and I'd just take them home and play them. The big advantage of doing it that way, which isn't, you know, there aren't many great things about not being able to see, but one of them is you don't have any collector's prejudice. You don't know what that is. You just know if you like the sound of it or not. So I just used to put records on, give them 10 seconds on the record player. If I liked it, I kept it. If I didn't, I didn't. Which probably means I got rid in the early days of quite a lot of collectible records. I've never been a fan of blues, or not like a big fan of it anyway. Some of it sounds quite samey to me, but I've probably given those sorts of things away and kept Victor Sylvester records that I liked. So I don't think that many people do that these days, especially with like the proliferation of YouTube and stuff like that. If you're going to collect 78s, what you really need to do is just pick up a load of 78s and see what you like. There's no point in collecting from lists, because you're going to get hung up on, I have to have this obscure thing on Vocalion from 1926 and I'm not going to rest until I've got it, rather than just enjoying the whole world of music that's out there in the 78s that nobody's ever really listened to.
So do you sell music as well as collect it?
Yeah, I do. I mostly sell CDs, but I do sell 78s in like job lots, so job lot of 50 random 78s or whatever, because I'm lazy and I quite like, I think philosophically speaking, I feel as though that's how I started, and I want other people to have that opportunity to discover what they like for themselves. So it's quite nice to be able to somebody buys a job lot of 50 random records, and sometimes I'll get messages from people saying, I discovered this in here and I really like it. I'm going to start collecting these records now. So I do, but I don't have lists of records. If there's a particular record you want, you can contact me. I've probably at least heard of it. Just tell me what it is that you're after, or even what kind of music it is that you're after. If you want to start collecting 78s, it'll be really nice to hear from you. Just email me. My website is oldgramophonerecords.co.uk. So if you go on that and contact me, it'll be good to have a chat, because you can spend very good money collecting records. You can collect anything you want these days fairly easily if you're willing to pay. But I don't think that's how it should be. I think that 78s are so far in the past now that most people don't know what most records sound like, including me. I mean, I keep finding stuff I've never heard of, and it's always just worth seeing if you like it, So if there's a particular record you're after, I'm probably not going to be much use, but if you want a particular kind of record, then I might be able to help.
So do you have social media as well as a website?
Yeah, I've got Facebook, I've got YouTube. Obviously I'm on YouTube. I've got thousands of records on YouTube. I think 5,500 at the minute, which are all from my own 78s. The YouTube is Robert Godridge, which is the same on Facebook. So if you subscribe to me on YouTube and add me on Facebook, you're going to find all the stuff that I'm doing, all my ramblings about collections I'm dead excited about, and so forth. And yeah, I don't have other stuff at the minute. I'm thinking about that. I'm working on that. But at the minute, YouTube and Facebook are my main one.
That's lovely. Thanks, Rob.